I almost called the police on my own son. And the worst part is, for a few minutes, I truly believed I had a reason. It was 2:17 a.m. that's the exact time. I remember because I stared at the microwave clock like it owed me an explanation. I couldn't sleep. Not unusual lately. Sleep had become optional, like something other people still had access to. So I went downstairs to get a glass of water. That's when I heard it. A soft click. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just wrong. You ever hear a sound in your own house that doesn't belong there? Something small, but it cuts through everything because you know every inch of that space? Yeah, it was that kind of sound. I froze halfway down the stairs. Another noise. A drawer. Slow. Careful. Like someone was trying not to wake anyone up. My first thought wasn't burglar. It was worse. It was who is that? Because when something doesn't make sense in your own home, your brain doesn't jump to strangers. The IT starts rearranging the people you already trust. I stood there, barefoot on the cold wood, listening. My heart wasn't racing why IT was calculating. There's a difference. I've lived in that house for 9 years, that I know the way the floor creaks near the kitchen island, that I know how the cabinet door sticks unless you lift it slightly. And whoever was down there, they knew it too. That's when my chest tightened. Because strangers don't move like that. I slowly stepped down the last few stairs, gripping the railing harder than I needed to. No lights were on. Just a faint glow from outside leaking through the blinds, painting everything in this gray-blue haze. The kitchen looked normal. Too normal. But the drawer was open. Just a few inches. And I knew for a fact. I knew. I had closed everything before going to bed. I stood there for a second, tried to listen past my own breathing. Nothing. No footsteps, no movement. Just silence. But not the peaceful kind. The kind that feels like it's watching you back. That's when I did something stupid. I said hello. Quiet. Controlled. Like I wasn't already imagining the worst. No answer. Of course. Because if someone was in my house, they weren't going to respond like it was a casual conversation. I took another step forward. Then another. Every instinct was telling me to turn on the lights. But something stopped me. Because light makes things real. And I wasn't sure I was ready for that yet. I reached the kitchen. The drawer was the one where we keep the knives. And it wasn't just open. It was disturbed. Like someone had gone through it. That's when my pulse finally kicked in. Hard. I pulled the drawer open fully. Everything looked almost right. Almost. But one knife was missing. Not the big chef's knife. Not anything obvious. It was the smaller one, the one we barely used. Which somehow made it worse. Because it meant this wasn't random. This was deliberate. I swallowed and looked around the kitchen again. Still nothing. No broken windows, and forced doors. Just that open drawer. And the feeling that I wasn't alone. That's when I heard it again. This time from upstairs. A soft step. My entire body went cold. Because now it didn't make sense. If someone was upstairs, then who? Or what? Was just in the kitchen. I didn't think anymore. I moved. Fast but quiet. Up the stairs, skipping the ones that creak. My mind was already building scenarios I didn't want to believe. My wife was asleep when I left the bedroom. I was sure of it. So who? Another step. From the hallway. I reached the top of the stairs and stopped. The hallway was darker than the kitchen. Long, narrow. Silent. Every door closed. Except one. At the very end. My son's room. The door was slightly open. Just enough to let a thin line of darkness spill into the hallway. And something about that felt wrong. Because he never sleeps with the door open. Never. I stood there, staring at it, trying to piece things together. Maybe he got up. Maybe he went downstairs. Maybe he took the knife for, I don't know, something stupid, something harmless. Kids do weird things, right? That's what I told myself. That's what I needed to believe. But then, why did it feel like I was about to find something I couldn't undo? I took a step forward. The floor creaked under my foot. And inside the room, something moved. Not a big movement. Just enough. Just enough to confirm. Someone was awake. I stopped breathing. And in that moment, a thought crossed my mind that I'm not proud of. Not even a little. What if it's not him? What if whatever was in the kitchen was now inside that room? I don't know how long I stood there. Seconds. Maybe minutes. Time doesn't behave normally when fear gets involved. But eventually, I reached for the door and pushed it open. Slowly. Carefully. like I was afraid the room itself might react. At first, I couldn't see anything, just shadows, shapes, familiar furniture that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Then my eyes adjusted, and I saw him, sitting on the edge of his bed, perfectly still, head slightly down, hands resting on his knees, like he'd been waiting. "Hey," I said, my voice barely holding together. "What are you doing up?" He didn't answer right away. He just sat there, and then, slowly, he lifted his head and looked at me. And I swear to God, for a second, I didn't recognize my own son. There's a very specific kind of fear that doesn't hit your body first. It hits your memory, because when I looked at him, sitting there in the dark, something didn't line up. Not his face, not his eyes, not even the way he was breathing. It was everything together, like I was looking at a version of him that was slightly off, just enough to make my brain hesitate. "Hey," I said again, quieter this time. "You okay?" He blinked once. Slow, too slow. Then he nodded, just a small movement, controlled. And that's when I noticed it. His hands, they weren't resting anymore. They were gripping something tight. I took a step closer without thinking. "What's in your hand?" No answer. He just kept looking at me, and the silence started to stretch. Not empty, heavy, like it was carrying something neither of us wanted to say out loud. I moved closer again, just enough for the light from the hallway to catch his fingers. And that's when I saw it. The knife. The one from the kitchen drawer. My throat tightened instantly. "Why do you have that?" I asked. Still calm. Still measured. But inside, everything was starting to fracture. He didn't look down at it. Didn't try to hide it. Didn't even react to the question. He just said, very quietly, "I couldn't find the other one." That sentence didn't make sense right away. It just hung there, like a piece of a puzzle that didn't belong to anything I understood. "The other what?" I asked. He tilted his head slightly, like I was the one being confusing. "The bigger one," he said, and something in my chest dropped. Hard, because now this wasn't about curiosity, or a kid doing something dumb. This was intention. "You don't need a knife," I said, taking another step forward. "Give it to me." For the first time, something changed in his expression. Not anger, not fear, something tighter. "No," he said, "just that. Flat, quiet, final." I stopped moving, because that word didn't sound like defiance. It sounded like a boundary, and that scared me more than anything else so far. "Why?" I asked, and I don't know what I expected. Excuse, lie, panic, anything normal. But what I got instead was honesty. "I thought you were still asleep." That's when the room shifted. Not physically, but in the way everything suddenly meant something else. "What does that mean?" I asked slower now. Careful, like I was walking on something that could break under me. He looked down at the knife for a second, then back at me, and his voice dropped even lower. "I heard you downstairs." Every muscle in my body went still, because now we were stepping into the same moment from different directions. "I was getting water," I said. "I know," he replied, and that should have made things better. It didn't, because of what he said next. "I just didn't think it was you." Something cold moved through me. Sharp, immediate. "What do you mean?" I asked. He hesitated, for the first time, and in that hesitation, I saw it. Fear. Real fear. Not of me, of something else. "You don't walk like that," he said. Quiet, almost apologetic. And suddenly, my mind snapped back to the kitchen. The way I moved. Careful, silent, controlled, avoiding every creak. Moving like someone who didn't want to be heard. Like someone who knew the house. Exactly. My grip tightened on the edge of the door. "What did you hear?" I asked. He swallowed, then spoke. "Someone opening drawers." My pulse hit harder. "That was me." "No," he said. Too fast. Too certain. "You were upstairs." That didn't make sense. "I just came for downstairs," I said. But even as I said it, something felt wrong. Because there was a moment. A gap. A stretch of time I hadn't accounted for. Between waking up and standing in the kitchen. Small, but now it felt important. "I heard it before you came up," he continued, slow. Like they were looking for something. Every word he said lined up perfectly with what I experienced. The same sounds, the same pacing, the same intention, but from before I was even there. That's impossible. It had to be. "Then I heard the stairs," he said, and I thought. He stopped, didn't finish the sentence. You thought what? I pressed. He looked at me, really looked at me this time. And whatever he saw didn't fully convince him. I thought someone else was in the house. The words landed harder than I expected, because I had thought the same thing, at the exact same time, just from the opposite direction. Silence filled the room again. But now it wasn't empty. It was connected. Two versions of the same fear, colliding in the middle. Okay, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Then we're both just tired. Our brains are messing with us. I took another step forward. Give me the knife. This time, he didn't argue. His fingers loosened slightly, but he didn't let go completely. Dad, he said, and something in his voice stopped me again. What? He leaned forward just a little, barely moving, but enough to close the distance between us. And then he said something I still hear in my head, exactly the same way. You went downstairs twice. Everything inside me went quiet. Not calm, just empty, like my body didn't know how to react yet. That's not possible, I said, but it didn't sound convincing, not even to me. I heard you, he continued. The first time, you didn't turn on any lights. My chest tightened. The second time, you did. I shook my head slowly. No, but now, images were starting to form. Fragments. The kitchen, the drawer, the light, the timing. Things that didn't fully connect before, now starting to overlap. Wrong. Inconsistent. Dad, he said again. Softer this time. There was someone in the kitchen before you. And for the first time since this started, I didn't have an explanation. Not a rational one. Not even a weak one. Because either he was lying, or I was missing time. And both options were worse than a stranger in the house. I reached out slowly, and this time, he let me take the knife. But neither of us felt safer. Not even a little. Because now the question wasn't who's in the house. It was, who was moving like me? I wish I could tell you the fear peaked right there. That taking the knife from his hand somehow brought things back under control. It didn't. Because once an idea like that gets into your head, it doesn't leave. You went downstairs twice. There are only two ways to process something like that. Either my son was confused, or I was. And standing there in the dark, holding a kitchen knife I didn't remember losing. I wasn't sure which one was worse. Stay here, I said. It came out sharper than I intended. He didn't argue, didn't move, just watched me like he was trying to decide if I was still me. I stepped back into the hallway and closed his door halfway. Not all the way. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want him fully out of sight. Or maybe I didn't want to be alone. The hallway felt longer now. Darker. Like the house had stretched while we were talking. I stood there for a second, listening. Nothing. No movement. No sounds. Just that same heavy silence pressing in from every side. I looked down at the knife in my hand. It felt wrong. Not dangerous. Familiar. Too familiar. Like it belonged there more than it should. I tightened my grip and started toward the stairs. Slow. Careful. Every step deliberate. And this time, I didn't avoid the creaks. I let the floor announce me. If something was down there, I wanted it to know I was coming. Halfway down, I stopped. Because something hit me. Hard. Not a sound. A memory. The kitchen. Standing there. Looking at the drawer. The light off. Everything in that gray-blue haze. And then, the light turning on. But I don't remember touching the switch. I just remember it being on. Like I had walked into a moment that had already started. My stomach dropped. Because that's not how memory works. There's always a transition. A cause. But that piece was just missing. I reached the bottom of the stairs. The kitchen came into view again. Exactly the same. Drawer open. Chairs tucked in. Nothing out of place. Except now it felt staged. Like a scene waiting for something to happen. I stepped in. Slow. Scanning everything. The sink. Empty. Counters. Clear. Windows. Locked. I checked the back door. Still bolted. No sign of entry. No sign of anyone. Just me. Standing there with a knife in my hand, trying to prove something I didn't understand. I turned toward the light switch. Stared at it. Tried to remember. Did I flip it? Or did I just assume I did? I reached out and turned it off. The room dropped back into that dim, gray-blue darkness. Exactly how I first saw it. And suddenly, it felt right. Too right. Like this was the original version. The one that actually happened. And the version with the light on was something else. Something added. I froze. because now my mind was doing something I couldn't control, replaying the moment. But differently, I could see myself in the kitchen, not from my eyes, from somewhere else, standing by the drawer, opening it, slowly, carefully, just like my son described. I squeezed my eyes shut. No, I whispered, but it didn't stop. The image sharpened, more detail, more clarity, and then something changed. The way I was standing. It wasn't exactly how I stand. Close, but off. Just enough. The shoulders too stiff. The head slightly tilted, like someone copying posture instead of living in it. I opened my eyes fast, breathing harder now, because that wasn't a memory. It felt like observation, like I was remembering something I didn't experience directly. And then I heard it. Behind me. A step. Soft. Careful. Exactly the kind of step that doesn't belong in your own house. I turned around instantly. Nothing. Empty doorway. Hallway still dark. But my heart was hammering now. Not calculating anymore. Reacting. I moved toward the hallway. Slow. Listening. And then, another step. Upstairs. Right above me. My chest tightened, because I knew exactly where that was. The hallway. Near my son's room. I looked up the stairs. Every instinct screamed the same thing. Go. But something held me in place. Because if someone was up there, then who? A voice cut through my thoughts. Dad. It was him. From his room. Clear. Awake. Alive. Relief hit for half a second. Then disappeared. Because right after his voice, I heard something else. Closer. Right behind me. Breathing. Not loud. Not exaggerated. Just there. Like someone standing a foot away. Matching my stillness. I didn't turn around immediately. I couldn't. Because in that moment, I knew something with absolute certainty. If I turned too fast, I was going to see it. And if I saw it, there was no going back. Dad, my son called again. Closer to panic now. And that's what broke it. I turned. Fast. Knife raised. Nothing. No one. Just the kitchen. Empty. Silent. Exactly like before. But the feeling didn't leave. Because even without seeing anything, I knew I wasn't alone down there. And whatever it was, it knew how to move. It knew the house. And worse, it knew me. I backed away slowly, never turning my back to the room, step by step, until I reached the stairs. Then I went up, faster this time, not running, but close. I got to his room and pushed the door open. He was still there. Same position, same expression, waiting. Did you come out? I asked immediately. He shook his head. No. Did you leave this room at all? No. Too fast. Too certain. Just like before. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. Fully this time. Locked it. I didn't care how it looked or what it meant. I just knew we weren't going back downstairs. Not tonight. We sat there in silence for a while. Neither of us saying what we were both thinking, because saying it would make it real. Eventually, he spoke. Quiet. Careful. Do you believe me now? I looked at him. Really looked this time. At the fear in his eyes. At how still he was trying to stay. And I nodded. Yeah, I said. I do. And that was the moment everything changed. Not because we solved anything, but because we stopped trying to explain it away. We didn't sleep that night. We stayed in that room until morning. Lights on. Door locked. Every sound amplified. Every second stretched. And when the sun finally came up, everything looked normal again. Of course it did. Houses are good at pretending. Morning makes everything feel smaller, manageable, explainable. But here's the part one can't ignore. The part that still doesn't sit right with me. Around 7 a.m., I went back downstairs. Carefully, expecting something, anything. But the kitchen was clean, quiet, exactly as it should be. Except for one thing. The drawer. It was closed. Perfectly. Not slightly open like before. Not disturbed. Just normal. And inside, every knife was there, including the one I was still holding in my hand. I stood there for a long time, just staring, because I knew two things at the same time. I took that knife from my son. I never brought it back. But somehow, it was already there, exactly where it belonged, like nothing had ever happened. I haven't told many people this, because there's no clean way to explain it. No version that doesn't make you sound like you're leaving something out, or losing something important. But here's what I do know. If something in your life suddenly feels off, not dramatically, Not obviously, just slightly wrong. Pay attention, because the most dangerous things aren't the ones that break in. They're the ones that already know how to live inside your routine. The ones that can open your drawers, walk your stairs, stand in your kitchen, and make your own family question if you were ever really there. And if you ever have a moment where someone you trust looks at you and hesitates, don't ignore that, because sometimes the scariest thing isn't that something entered your home. It's the possibility that something learned how to be you, and you'd never know the exact moment it took your place.